here it is. Got it framed and everything. Definitely the most expensive piece of paper that I own. I know a lot of people are wondering, is a computer science degree worth it? Should you get a degree, or should you just go to like one of those web development boot camps, or should you just learn online? Because there's so many ways you can just learn a lot of these concepts in languages online. So I studied computer science at UBC, the University of British Columbia. In this video I want to go through a list of some of the courses I took, how I found them, what I learned or didn't learn from them. What I'm going to do here is grab my laptop, log into my SSC here. This here shows you all the courses that I took. There's a lot of courses there. It was a 4-year undergrad program. I did it in 5 years because I wanted to enjoy my summers. Didn't want to take too many summer courses. So first course, the very first course that I took was Computer Science 110. This was pretty much the intro to computer science at UBC. And in this course, you actually work with a programming language called Racket. That's right, Racket. So I remember at the time, we used to all be like, yo, why are we learning Racket? We should be learning something useful, like building Android apps or something that's gonna help us in the real world. But honestly, looking back, 110 was probably my favorite course. That was actually one of the highest marks I got. UBC was actually in that class. So I think that was a good course because it taught me kind of how computers think, like when it comes to programming languages, right? Like what functions are, writing comments above functions, like how you're going to define what the following function or the class or the method or whatever does. I remember we built a snake game, like, going forward and back and things like that. So keep in mind, I had no experience programming. I had no experience coding. I didn't know anything about computer science or anything like that prior to this course. So how I did well in that course was during the labs. In the labs, I would go in there to the TAs and I would just ask questions, however I understood them, I would just ask them, so what does this do? What does this do? Okay, so if I do this and this, what happens? Like I would just break down the problems really simple to where I could understand them. And I realized like it wasn't too hard and I actually started to enjoy it. So next course is Computer Science 121 and it's called Structures of Computation. And in there it says Boolean algebra, logic circuits, proof techniques, functions and sequential circuits, sets and relations, finite state machines. That's like a lot of stuff to say. It was pretty much logic. So it was like and statements, or statements, combining different and or statements, just drilling down on logic. And I remember the lab for that course was really fun because we had circuits. I think there were logic circuits and we would have like a board, and you would kind of plug these things into the board, and based on the logic and the path you wrote, certain lights at the end of the board would light up, and I enjoyed it a lot. The next course, JavaScript, Computer Science 210. So I had heard this was one of those weeder courses, was called a weeder course. These kind of courses, the idea is they're purposely made to be a little bit difficult, and the idea is people that aren't serious and kind of weed those people out, and kind of those people fail or drop out. So I remember I was like sitting in class and I would look at all the kids around me, and they just seemed like they knew so much more than I did. I would have like intense imposter syndrome, like should I even be here, because I thought they had been studying computer science and programming and making little apps on the side since they were little kids, right? That's kind of the vibe I got from everyone else in the class. This was one of those courses that the project is worth a huge chunk of your grade, and the project for this course was building a Java Android app where we would have to use the Yelp API and the Google Maps API. So pretty much we would have to plot the shortest distance between a certain building on campus to your nearest food location. You plot a path. You get to the food location, there should be a pin, and when you click the pin, it should generate some reviews for that food location that it pulls from the Yelp API. So that was the project. And honestly, I just got carried by my partner on that project, and I think I aced the project, and because of that I was able to get a pretty good mark in that course. Without my partner, I think it would have been pretty bad. I do notice that's like a common thing in universities and colleges. When you have like a group project, it's usually like one person or like maybe two people that actually know what they're doing. Communication is not usually too good between the group members, and like what ends up happening is like one person just ends up doing everything or most of the work, and everyone else is just kind of there and just kind of get propelled by that one person. Okay, here's the actual picture of me from when I was at UBC. I think I was just taking a nap or something in between classes, but look at me here and then look at the kid in the background. That was pretty much my experience with my first software construction class, which was Computer Science 210. Okay. One more thing I want to add before going on to the next course is that while I do think that Java is a good language to learn in theory, so it might be good to start learning the ideas of object-oriented programming or classes or inheritance or methods, things like that. But I think that it's not a good first language to get started programming with. And the reason for that is I think compared to some other languages like JavaScript, and JavaScript isn't the same as Java, by the way, or Python, there's a lot more overhead and boilerplate code in Java that you need in order to get up and running. And in order to start building something, you need a lot more boilerplate code and setup that's involved before you can actually start. I think that's one of the problems I had with Java. It was a little bit overwhelming, and that's one of the things that kind of prevented me, I think, from really grasping it too well. Brings me to my second point is one of the differences between computer science at a college or university as compared to what you learn in a boot camp is that in colleges and universities a lot of times you're going to be learning a lot more theory and theoretical stuff as opposed to more practical stuff, you know, as you would learn in a boot camp. And I think that's one of the good things about a boot camp is that in a boot camp you get a lot of practical skills. You learn a lot of practical skills and tools that you're going to need every day on your job, you know, when you're working in the field. And a lot of the stuff that you learn in colleges and universities might be a little bit more theoretical, and it's a little bit harder to translate a lot of that theoretical stuff into building small apps or products, you know, things like maybe the hardware of computers, you know, memory allocation, maybe advanced algorithms, so things like that. Just wanted to bring those 2 points up. Okay, next course, Computer Science 221, Data Structures and Algorithms. Okay, so this was probably the most difficult course I did. The course was talking about data structures, so, you know, arrays, linked lists, trees, graphs, heaps, different sorting algorithms, merge sort, bubble sort, things like that. Language we used in this was C++. We did like studied pointers, things like that. I actually failed it the first time where I thought like, yo, I don't have any math background, at least to like this level. All the stuff seems so abstract, and I mean, I was used to like biology and chemistry and physics, just, you know, the traditional sciences, and comparing that to this, it was just so, it was all like equations and sets, and I remember not knowing what is big O notation, time complexity. This stuff is actually really useful, especially when you're searching for jobs. I'll be honest, most of the time, especially for entry-level positions after you graduate, you're not going to be using most of this stuff on a day-to-day basis. However, it is really useful for interviews and prepping for interviews, especially if you're applying to the big tech companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook. So super important. I failed the first time. So, you know, when you're doing this stuff, if you do this stuff, it's just know that it is hard, and don't be discouraged, you know, just keep at it. Failing doesn't mean anything. Just, you know, you can fail the interview, learn from it, and you do better on the next one, you know. Next course, Computer Science 304, Introduction to Relational Databases. So this course was actually really useful. I actually enjoyed it. I actually learned a lot, and it was actually practical. So in software engineering, especially if you're in back-end software engineering, or full stack software engineering, or even architecture or DevOps, you need to understand how databases work and how data is stored, right? And that's exactly what this course was. We learned relational databases, SQL, and I remember like that course, I walked away with a solid understanding of SQL, how different tables work, how tables are connected, like foreign keys. And yeah, this course was really useful. We did like ER diagrams, so it was kind of like if you had to design a hospital, how would you store the information? And here I'm actually going to share with you on my screen an ER diagram that I made in that class. Here's what it is. You can see like you have an appointment here, and the appointment has a doctor, and the doctor works in a department, and all that stuff. So honestly, I probably would have structured this a little bit differently if I was doing it now, but generally I think that gives you a good sense of what it was we were trying to do for that part of the course. So again, that was 310 Introduction to Relational Databases. Actually super relevant to what you do day to day as a software engineer in the industry. The last course I'm going to talk about in this video is Computer Science 430, and this was one of those courses I took mainly because it was a fourth year course, and it was a little bit easier, and so I pretty much used it to pad my GPA a little bit, focus on like discussion and how many times you answered questions or presented your thoughts. We'd have readings, and then we'd write like mini essays on them, and then we'd present them. Talked about kind of the history of computers, things like patents, intellectual property, privacy, reliability, security, globalization, the ethics of computer science, like when you have like a whistleblower, like Snowden, and the NSA, what is the ethics of some of the stuff that comes with computer science. And it was less technical and more so theory, but overall I did enjoy that class. That's pretty much it. Otherwise this video is gonna get too long. I'm just starting this YouTube thing out. Let me know if you found this video helpful in the comments below. Also let me know what other kinds of videos you'd want to see. I've been working full-time as a software engineer for about 5 years now since graduating, so if you want to know what the job is like or my path to becoming a software engineer, because it definitely was a path even after graduating. It wasn't as easy as I have a degree, let me get a job. Definitely not that easy. That's what I thought. And again, I didn't do co-op or internship, anything like that, so it was a little bit more difficult for me, but at the end of the day I got it done. I got a job, and I got another job. So yeah, let me know. And again, if you enjoyed this video, found it useful, make sure to hit that like button. So consider subscribing to my channel for more videos like this. I'm gonna try to make videos related to technology, software engineering, how to get a job, issues I had when I started out, things I've learned along the way. I'm just trying to help you guys out. I'd love to have someone like this walk me through, mentor me, tell me these kind of things when I was starting out. So I'm hoping that I could be something like that for you guys. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you found this video useful. Until next time, peace out.